Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. The theme this month is autumn or Christmas cheer, and I chose Christmas cheer. As I was planning out my cards, what I really wanted to do was show the assembly of our new add-on set that fits our snowman pop-up. So we have a snowman pop-up, we have a new add-on set that will convert that snowman into a penguin or a reindeer. Now what I wanted is both animals inside the card. Now I could have done that with a top fold card, but what I really wanted was a side fold card with both animals. And so what I decided to do was teach a fold splitting technique using our new Postage pop-up die set. I also really wanted to use a stamp combination on our new Winter Hugs clear stamp set that says when snow is falling, crafts are calling, so I made this cool card. So in keeping with that theme of snow, crafting, and Christmas, I used our Office Charms, Snow Charms, and then the Season of Cheer clear stamps as well. I decided on a landscape A2 size card. So I started with a piece of cardstock 11 inches wide by 4 1/4 tall, scored in the middle for folding. Then I added pattern paper panels. Those are 5 1/4 inches wide by 4 inches tall. Now I just shot my stash for designer challenge videos. This one is an Echo Park design, but it's a little older. All right, I am going to measure and mark where I want the folds to be for my animals. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out about where the center of the card is, top to bottom, and then I'm going to measure off that point 1 1/4 to the right-hand side. So 1 1/4 off the fold on the right, and then 1/2 inch off the fold to the left. Okay, a little bit closer visual here. So this line is 1 1/4 off the center fold to the right. And then this little line over here is 1/2 inch off the center fold to the left. I will be using the pull box mechanism out of the Postage pop-up, but I'm going to alter it so that it is just a fold splitter. So I'm going to start with the piece that makes the box. There's a tapered tab on one end. I'm going to work that fold, and then I'm going to go to the next fold and fold that as well. And then I don't need to keep going with the folding because I only need that end of this box. So I'm going to cut right on the fold line and remove the rest of the mechanism. All right, so all I'm taking from this piece is that tapered tab and then that panel that has the slot in it. All right, then I'm going to take the notched end of the pull arm through the slot from behind the piece and just wiggling it through until it's seated in there. And I do apologize. Sometimes I don't pay enough attention to notice that the camera has not focused in on what I'm showing. So it's a little blurry. I apologize, but hopefully you can see what that looks like. Now, normally with this type of tab and slot, you just leave it. But for this technique, I need that tab glued down because something else is going to have to go over the top of it. So I have LINECO neutral pH adhesive. I've put that on the back of the tab, looking to make sure everything's straight. I'm just going to glue that little tab down. And then now since I've glued it down, I need to put the fold back in it. So I'm just going to, bend the piece right at the slot location so that it easily bends at that location. Okay, and now I can trim this box side a little bit smaller. Now I can't make it as thin as the pull arm because otherwise the piece would fall apart, but I can take a little bit off the side so it's not quite as wide. Okay, now I'm going to let those pencil lines that are in my card help me figure out where to put the fold on the left-hand side. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, and let me see if I can zoom this in here. I want the fold on the right-hand side to be right on my 1 1/4 pencil line. So it's the fold that's on that line. So not the end of the tab, but the fold. And then over here on the left, I'm just going to take something like my ruler and place it on my 1/2 inch line and then just bend this piece up at that location. So essentially, I'm just trying to put a fold in my piece that corresponds to that 1/2 inch line. And then I have way too much pull arm now, so I can take a bunch of it off and just leave myself enough tab to glue down. Okay, and now I can put my fold splitter inside the card. So it's just the tabs that are going to glue down. So I'm going to add my strong adhesive to the one that's going to be out on the right. And I want the fold line, again, to be right on my 1 1/4 pencil line. So just finding where the line is, making sure that the fold is on that line. So it's not the end of the tab, it's the fold that's on that 1 1/4 line. And I just want to make sure it's straight. And then once I have the right-hand side glued down, then I can just fold over the tab on the left-hand side, the one that's on the, it should be sitting on the 1/2 inch line. So the fold of the left tab will be on the 1/2 inch line. And then in that flat position, just press down both tabs. Okay, both tabs are in, and now is the moment of truth. Will the card close? So it should just pop up and close down flat, depending on how well you measured and put your folds on those pencil lines. If it's just a little off, it'll probably just make a little bubble fold and be fine. But if it's way off, then you may have to kind of pull it off of there and do it again. Okay, so what I have essentially done now is split that fold so that I have two folds that can each hold a pop-up base for an animal. So I'm going to switch to my snowman pop-up now. I've die cut the base again out of the same pattern paper because I kind of want to make it disappear a little bit, and I'm going to work all the folds in that piece. So now we're with snowman pop-up, usual assembly on the base, working every single fold as a mountain fold. Then I bring the tapered tab around to the other side and connect it. So a little glue on the tapered tab. I can do that in that flat position if I want to. Just line everything up and press it together, and then I have that six-sided base with two tabs underneath that will meet in the fold of the card. And because I'm using a fold splitter, I'm going to line up those tabs and build them on this outer fold. So again, I'm just at usual assembly here on that snowman base. I add some strong adhesive to one of the base tabs. Then I take the end of it right up into the fold of the card, in this case the right fold of my fold splitter. And I'm just going to attach that to the card so that it's butted right up to the fold. Okay, and then keeping everything nice and flat, I add my adhesive to the other base tab. And then I need to keep it flat, close the card. The fold splitter will come over the top and pick up that other tab. And then as I open it, I can just kind of go in there through the middle and press it and make sure that it is glued down really well. Okay, so I have my first base in. That's the one that's going to hold the penguin. You can see that in the flat position, it is popped up. And then as the card closes, the fold splitter is going to operate that base. Okay, through the magic of video editing, I'm going to really speed up me putting together that second base because it's the exact same as the first one. I just need to work all the folds as mountain folds, use some adhesive in the tapered tab, and then now that is ready to install on the other fold. It is going to be the left fold of the fold splitter that is going to hold this base. So the installation is exactly the same. I put my strong adhesive on one of the base tabs. I butt that up right to the fold. I find that easiest by lifting the card up to 90 degrees so I don't cross the fold. Once I get that tab stuck down, then I add adhesive all over the top of the upper tab, base tab, and then I keep everything nice and flat and close the card. And it will pick up that base in exactly the right position if you give it enough time to set up. Okay. Then once it's set, yeah, there we go. All right, once it's set up, then you can go in there and give it a good press in the open position. And that is all there is to it. So now I've split that fold, I've doubled that base, and I can build two animals. All right, time to make some cute animals to put on those bases. Now I need to start with pieces from the snowman pop-up because that is the foundation die for the animals. So starting with the reindeer, I've cut the big snowman parts out of brown cardstock. I would like my animals to be wearing scarves. So the scarf piece comes in the snowman pop-up. I've die cut the one that goes across the body. There is a long one for the solid snowman and then one that cuts in two pieces for the slotted snowman. So I just have to get those at the top of the body below the head. They will fit those areas perfectly. All right, taking the solid snowman, on my left hand, I'm going to put it through the other snowman until the notch is seated at the bottom. Now at the top, I need to get the notch in as well, but it's not going to just slide straight through. So I'm going to have to take the solid snowman and really bend the head all the way over until I can get the notch in the slot and then slide it back up to the top. Your other option, and it may be the only option if you've used heavyweight cardstock, is to fold up by the notch on the solid snowman, slide it through the slot, and then unfold. The head of the reindeer needs to have those notches forward as this is attached to the base. So at the bottom, I'm sliding the tabs through the slots in the base from the outside of the piece. So just going around is very easy. Just take them tab by tab, wiggle them until you get them into the slots. And then just take a moment to look at the head of the reindeer. Make sure that the notches are forward on both halves. The circle pieces for the body cut 2 at a time, and I need 4 of them, and they are identical. And you kind of have choices. You can put them on one at a time. You can kind of try and do a set. So let's say I wanted to do a set. I would notch the sides of 2 together, and then I would go in there, and it's always the slot gets seated in the notch at the bottom. And then you just pull the snowman through the top of the slot, and it will make a satisfying click. Okay, so slot at the bottom, get it seated in the notch, and then just pull the snowman through until it gives you a satisfying click. Okay, after getting the front half of the body on, then I just turn the card around, and I've got 2 more to do the same way. So I can hook the notches together so that it joins to the one next to it. Then I get the slot seated in the bottom, pull the snowman through the top of the slot until it gives me a satisfying click. Last one, notch, slot, seat, click. And then the only thing that's a little fiddly is this last little bit, trying to kind of wiggle the card until I can get those notches together. Once the body pieces are on, then I can choose a location for the other half of the scarf. So I've decided to put it on the left-hand side. So just gluing that on there to complete the base of my reindeer. And now I will do the same thing for the penguin. Okay, starting off with my snowman pieces again. This time I've cut them out of black, and once again I'm going to start with the scarf. Okay, and then putting those together is the same as with the reindeer. I'm going to get the notch seated in the slot at the bottom, and because I used a lightweight cardstock, I can bend the solid snowman over until I can get the notch in the slot at the top and then slide it up to the top. And if I couldn't do that because I chose heavier cardstock, I would have to just bend the back of the head, get the head through, and then unfold. Now make sure that those notches are forward on the head because that is important. I cut 1 extra solid snowman out of white cardstock, and I'm just going to take a little piece for the outside edges of my penguin to turn those into white. So I'm just kind of cutting from the notch at the bottom to the notch at the top. And then those were cut with the same die so that they'll fit that area just perfectly. The important thing here is I'm just trying to change the color, and I don't want to do anything about the mechanism. So everything needs to line up so that the notches are still there and functional, if that makes sense. So once again, use that lightweight cardstock because you don't want to have too much bulk on your penguin when you're trying to, get those body pieces on later and be able to click them into the notch. So lightweight to change the color. Then attaching that to the base is the same as with the reindeer. So it is the tabs at the bottom of the penguin that are going to wiggle through the holes on the base. And you do that from the outside. So just working your way around, taking it tab by tab, wiggling them into those holes on the base. And then just making sure that the penguin is face forward with the notches on the head forward. With the body pieces, I cut all 4 of them out of black, but then I cut another set out of white, and that is so I can do a little bit of a color change here on the belly. So for one of my white pieces, I'm going to cut it kind of aligned with the left side of the slot, so you can see it's the right side of the piece plus, the area over the slot. And I'm going to add my adhesive all over that and attach it to one of the black pieces. So I'm basically just changing the belly to white. So then on the other one, it's the opposite. So I'm going to snip to the right side of the slot and then glue that to the other piece. So once again, I would choose a lightweight white cardstock. This is just about changing the color. You don't want to make it too bulky or it'll be harder to put the piece together. You also don't want to add a bunch of bulk inside your card. So that's just color change. So just use something really light for that. Okay, so these pieces are going to go on the front of the penguin. So once again, I just get the notch seated at the bottom and then pull the penguin through until I get a click at the top. Then I take the other piece, I get the notches together on the left-hand side, get the slot seated at the bottom, and then just pull it through until it clicks. Okay, and then the back half of the penguin is just like the back half of the reindeer, so it's just a matter of getting the notches between the circles connected, the slots seated in the notch at the bottom, and then the satisfying click of pulling the penguin through. The most fiddly part being the final set of notches, getting those together. Okay, so when I built that fold splitter, I chose a location to end up with those animals sitting really close together, like basically joined at the hip. And I thought that would be cute, number one, but also it meant that I could fit them both in an A2 size card, so that 5.5-inch card. if I made the card wider, let's say I made it a 6-inch wide card, then what I could do at that first step with the fold splitter is I could move that right fold out a little bit. So maybe to 1.5 inches or 1 3/4 inches. That will put a little bit more distance between the animals, but it also means that you have to have a wider card to hide them. So just kind of mess around with that and see what you like. Okay, so the rest of the pieces for the animals are going to come from the new add-ons set. So Penguin and Reindeer Snowman add-ons adds on the pieces that you need to style those bases as the animals. So on the leg piece for the reindeer, it cuts 2 at a time. I need 4 of them, so I cut 2 and then used the black pen through the die as a stencil to add the hooves. Now you can absolutely explore different positions for those legs to do different poses. What I decided for this card is that I would just have the reindeer essentially just sitting there ready to give us a hug. It's always a good idea to open and close your card and make sure that you have things in a good spot that isn't creating any catch points or sticking out of the card when the card is closed. There is an optional stencil feature to stencil in the centers of the ears for the face. So that is on a single die, but it's 2 pieces. So if the pieces fall out of the die and you want to use the stencil feature, just put the pieces back in and then go through that stencil feature. I just chose a colored pencil because it would show up against the brown cardstock easier than a marker. What joins the face halves together is that little tab and slot. So the tab goes through the slot from the front of the piece, and you can just wiggle it through. And then once it's through, it's hidden now behind the piece, but we need to put a fold in it. So then you're just going to mount and fold the face. You can kind of slide it until the slots line up. Once you got a good location, you can give it a good pinch in the center. And then you don't need any adhesive. It's just that little tab that's going to hold those pieces together. Okay, for eyes, there is a die in the set that will cut 2 ovals. I used white cardstock with double-sided adhesive on the back. Then there is a die that will cut 2 small circles, and I did that with black and double-sided adhesive on the back as well. And then I'm just going to layer those tiny black circles onto those white ovals and then onto the reindeer's face. There is a single oval in the set to make the nose. And what's important is that you only attach it to one side of the face or the other. Now it can still float over the center fold, but it's only attached on one side. Now I chose red mirror card for that nose. If you would like that to be a more year-round deer or reindeer, you could use black, or it really will look like a moose as well if you use a black nose. Drawing a smile on the reindeer, also optional, and you can kind of mess around with where you put it. Maybe it's going to be centered. I decided to put it off to one side. For attaching the face to the head, then you just need to get the slot seated in the notch at the bottom, and then just pull the head through the top of the slot until it makes a satisfying click. And then just do the same with the other side. So slot in the notch at the bottom, and then just pull it through. And I definitely think that you could style some other animals with that head, especially a bear. With the antlers, you certainly don't have to double them up. I just chose to so that they would be a little bit stronger. So I cut 2 sets of antlers. I am joining them back to back so that they are double thick. And then where those go on the head is really completely up to you. And it could be that the card size will make a difference in what angle that they go at. So as you press those on, just make sure that you're checking it real quick and making sure that they're staying in the card. Then the last piece for the reindeer would be the tail. That's optional, but if you've got room for it and you like that look, you can go back behind the reindeer and just choose a spot for it that stays in the card. Okay, for the penguin, switching to the penguin, there is a die in the set that will cut both halves of the face. Now the one that has the little notch out of it is on the right-hand side. And then there is another die in the set that cuts 4 pieces at the same time. Those would be typically cut out of white. And you're looking for the ones that have the slot and the tab. So similar to the reindeer's face, the slot and the tab are on the white pieces. And when you put the adhesive behind that, don't put adhesive out here next to the slot because that's going to be out over air. And then you're going to use the slot that's in the black piece to line up the little corner. There's kind of a little hook corner that you can line up there. Okay, and then there is another white piece that has the tab. And once again, there's kind of a little hook area that makes it easy to line up over the black piece. You don't want adhesive behind the tab, but everything else can get adhesive, and then you just use the corner of the slot to line that up perfectly. Then the tab is going to go through the slot from behind the piece, and that way the tab is visible on the front of the face, and that will be the location for adding the beak. So a little spot of glue on the tab, and then there is a die in the set that will cut a beak and the feet. They're on the same die since they're normally all the same color, and it's that little small triangle that's the beak that gets attached to the tab. And that way it will have kind of like a little 3D effect to the beak. Then for the rest of the penguin's face, I like to use a pink colored pencil to add some rosy cheeks, and then I like to use just the small black circles for the eyes. Attaching the face to the head is the same as with the reindeer. You get the notch seated at the bottom, and then you pull the top through. The other white pieces will make the face look rounder, and you can do that after you've attached the face or before. So I already did the left side, but now let me just show the right side. I just took the face off temporarily. I add that decorator piece, again, just lining up the notch at the bottom, and then get the face piece back on. So you can do that before or after adding the face. There is also a 2-piece stocking cap in the set that has a stencil feature for the ribbing at the bottom, and you can choose whether the tab goes through from behind the piece or the top of the piece. It sort of depends on whether you want to add something to the tab, like maybe a snowflake. I've decided I'm going to go through from the front of the piece so that the tab has disappeared in the back. So same thing that I did with the reindeer's face. The tab went through from the top so that it's hidden behind the stocking cap, but it's holding those 2 pieces together. And then I just need a little glue at the top of the penguin and add the hat. And then there is a little pom-pom in the set to go at the top of the hat. And I have the adhesive only on 1/2 of the hat. What's left on the penguin are wings and feet. So the wings are going to go, whatever angle you want. And then on the feet, they actually attach to the base. So in this case, that brown snowflake base that I put in at the beginning, that's what's going to hold the feet. You'll find that there's kind of a little cutout area at the top of the foot that allow you to slide it up and get it completely on the base. The last die in the set will cut 3 fold-over Christmas lights. So those look great if the reindeer's holding them, maybe strung between the antlers. In this case, we've got 2 little friends here. So I strung some twine between the outer hands and then kind of looped around the reindeer's inner hand as well. So I've got to keep a little bit of slack in that so that it can fold down and back up. Basically, the die is going to cut those lights as foldovers. So what that means is you just fold it in half. It can go over the twine and glue to itself. Okay, so I strung a bunch of lights on that string, just checking that everything folds down nicely. And then what I can do is go in there with some glue on the outer twine and just make it permanent. Since I was using the postage pop-up for the mechanism, it will be perfect to frame the greetings as well. So I'm using the largest square postage stamp for the When Snow is Falling, Crafts Are Calling. I traced the inside edge with a brown pen, and then now I'm just going to go in and get out just that one stamp by tearing on the perforation lines. Our charm sets have their own assembly videos, so I will link those in the description box below. But what I did is I mixed in a couple of the office charms, the scissors and the pencil, along with the sled and the snowflake charm from the snow charms, and then sprinkled in some more of those glittery Christmas lights to make a garland for the front of my card. And then that is on a piece of pattern paper that's a little bit smaller than the card size, so then I can just glue the finished card front to the front of the card. And then for the inside, very simple. Just the "So I Made This Cool" card on the left-hand side and "Merry Christmas" on the right, leaving some space to sign the card. I also added a few die-cut snowflakes to the inside of the card, both on the animals and the greetings. The envelope size for this card is just a standard A2. So it does have 2 animals stacked on top of each other in that flat position, so I think it's probably going to need some extra postage, but it will fit in the envelope just fine. So a fun and maybe a little bit different of a holiday card, especially for your crafty friends that will truly appreciate the sentiment. Now, the only thing that really makes this Christmas is that it's a reindeer with some Christmas lights and it has the stamp Merry Christmas, but you could absolutely make it winter instead. And that could be maybe two penguins or a penguin and a snowman or two snowmen. So really have fun with that fold splitting technique in two side-by-side characters. Check the description box below for supply links and a link to the blog post, and that is where you will find all of the autumn and Christmas cheer inspiration by our very talented design team. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBerniston.com, where you can purchase these dies as well as find links to our other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.